welcome back to Germany. How's your European tour been progressing so far? I understand you've already played a few dates.
That's right. We were here in November, and we did shows in Berlin and Dortmund, and so it's great to be back. We did 2 nights in Hamburg last week, and they were great, and it was a great place to kick off the tour.
Fantastic. And you've always said that physical interaction with your fans is a big priority for Interpol as a band. And is that still sort of at the core of what you're trying to do as Interpol, to really make a connection with your fans and get out and see people? It seems like the commitment to touring is very important to you guys.
Yeah, well, I think when we're playing live, to me, it's very important to feel a strong connection with the people in the audience and so forth. And it means a lot to me. I think just in general, it's something that it sums up the whole experience of writing music, and then here you are performing it, and people are singing back the lyrics, or familiar with the songs. That's kind of what it's about. I mean, you can go back to the beginning of the band, and that was the best case scenario. So it's easy to kind of go back to the simplest form and really appreciate that moment. I think just the reality of the physical sales decrease, that's just what's happening. And so obviously it'd be nicer if people bought more records. That's just not what's happening right now, and the times have very much changing, and I think you have to go with change rather than complain and lament about the way things are heading. I think there's a lot of great things. The fact that people can become familiar with your music all over the world via the internet and have a very strong interaction together. So definitely I'd rather look at the positive side than sit here complaining about the decline of record sales and so forth.
And Interpol really cut their teeth playing in New York before the first album came out. Yeah,
I think in our earliest days, we were a band for 4 to 5 years before we actually put out our first record. In a city like New York, it's very difficult to do that. Fans, if they don't get a certain amount of attention, at least back then, this is pre-internet craziness and so forth, it's hard to kind of survive. You usually just move on to the next thing, or you break up. It's a very expensive city, and I know it's just hard to kind of keep being in a band, at least in the late 90s it was. But I think in hindsight, I think it was a great thing for us. It gave us time to develop and to be doing this for the right reasons, which was that we had a great chemistry together, and we really believed in the music that we were writing. And then by the time that we finally did start getting a bit of attention, I think we were very comfortable with our process. And so, we in this day and age, it's a very different time period. Obviously, a band can maybe write some songs and put them on the internet, and if people start going crazy for them, all of a sudden, they're putting out their first record and touring, and doesn't give them very much time to develop or get comfortable with the process. And then there's a lot of pressure to write your second record and to keep doing it. It's just a bit of a different time period now than I think it was when we began.
And of course, at the moment, your live shows are a little bit different after Carlos D, your bassist, has decided that his time with Interpol has come to an end. You're playing with Brandon Curtis of the excellent Secret Machines now, and also Brad Truax. Is that a permanent group now, or are you going to continue to experiment with different live arrangements?
We haven't really gone that far. It's a pleasure playing with those guys. They're really great musicians, and we get along fabulously as friends, and which obviously is equally as important, especially when you're touring and so forth. So, I don't really have a written answer. We never really, in the history of Interpol, we never plan what we're doing next too far ahead of time. We just kind of have to, once we get there, we figure out how we want to move forward. So I don't think it's any different right now. Obviously, we have quite a bit of touring ahead of us, and we still want to try to play songs we haven't played in a while and enjoy that. But, we'll get there when we, at the end of this touring cycle.
It seems like the people you've got in as well, even on paper, seem like a very natural fit from previous music they've made.
That's right. Brandon's a great example of that. We, right away we felt great chemistry. We were already great friends with him, and we'd already toured with the Secret Machines more than a couple times. So we, aesthetically we knew we matched, and then chemistry-wise it was there from the beginning. And we've only played a few shows with Brad, but it's been great thus far. I've known him for close to 15 years, and so it's really terrific to have the opportunity to play with him. And he's a tremendous bassist and individual. So it's feeling good, and we're having a good time.
And I'm sure a lot of Interpol fans will know about Secret Machines as well, so they'll be happy to see almost a supergroup, as some might say, forming.
It's nice to think of it that way, and it feels that way on stage, and I think it's just about really, you're playing with people who have a tremendous amount of experience and a great approach to aesthetics, so you're already feeling pretty good about it, but it's pretty exciting every night, I have to say.
Fantastic. Just to think about what it means to be in Interpol, do you still feel the same impetus and desire for performing as you did in the first album? Or if it's not the same, does it feel different? Does it still feel new and fresh to you?
It does. I think this is kind of going back to my original statement about the connection to fans. I feel like I've always appreciated, especially when people started paying attention to us a bit and put out our first record, and we got the opportunity to finally tour after all those years. The amazing side of it, that here you are playing shows, and the people want to come see your shows, and they're curious about what you're doing next, and they're familiar with your music. The human connection is not lost. From the beginning of this campaign, I really I attach myself to right away. And I think in some ways I prefer more than now than ever. And obviously playing with new musicians on stage, and there's a reason to keep you on your toes and to find new ways of interacting together. There's new things to discover. And so, yeah, no, I mean, we have like the best fans in the world, you know, and we know this. It's a pleasure to 4 records in to still have the opportunity to do it.
Finally, Daniel, I was wondering, what criteria do you have for yourself to measure the success of Interpol? Do you look entirely within the band, within your own feelings about it, or do you pay any attention to external things that you may or may not have any control over?
No, I think a long time ago, during the first record, I stopped paying attention to external things. If you start looking at it too much, it's all these different voices, all these different places, and it just felt like, you know what, this isn't for me. This is for, I guess, fans and people who just read music magazines who wants to know what's going on and so forth. And so that's totally understandable, fair, and respectable. It's just I realized, you know what, this isn't my, you know, what's important to me are the things that I can control, which is what I want to say, the kind of records I want to make, the songs I want to write, where I want to tour, the decisions I want to make. Those are things I can actually control. How it's received after that, I mean, that's completely out of my control. So I think I realized that as soon as I made that decision, I think things made a lot more sense for me, and things just found the right place. So yeah, no, I measure success by contentment and connection with fans and things that you can actually have sort of a control over, and all the other outside forces are just, especially in this day and age, they're so far and varied that if you try to control them, it's kind of a lost battle in a way. It's also a very time-consuming and energy-consuming battle, and yeah, I don't think that's for me.
I think that personal honesty is a lot of the reason why people are attracted to Interpol's music as well. There's not any real sense of pretense about it. It's not an effort to pander to any particular gap in the market that could be filled.
Well, that's the way I feel too, and we've never measured success by how well we've done sales-wise, chart-wise, or things like that. We don't, that's not, you know, we measure success by things that feel good to us and things that we control, and the simplest forms of why you do this in the first place. So, and that feels like very honest to me.